Don King was a joint that Rocky had sent me, and instantly I heard it. I knew it was something I was gonna rock with. So I sat down with it for a few minutes, and some like real ill revolutionary gangster shit came to me. So I wrote Don King in like 15 minutes. That was a joint that I wrote pretty fast, but it's just because the beat was it was amazing. The beat was so amazing to me that it just inspired the lyrics. So it came real easy like water, really, to tell you the truth.
So what was Get On?
Get on, get on. I gotta get on. That's a joint that Rocky had did for me about 6 years ago. He gave me that track, and I had wrote something to it, and the lyrics was crazy, but I didn't have no hook. So then I was in Detroit, um, running around with my mans and them out in Detroit. And they had a studio that they was running in, and they ran across this kid named Rocket. He like a rock and roll type dude, Lenny Kravitz type, black rocker type guy. So I threw him on there, and he's just a different type of dude. Is period. Like his whole black rock star character. You know what I'm saying? Shout out to Rocket McFly. Shout out to Gates and Rich Boy Records too. Say Grace is a joint my man Spaz gave me. Spaz Out Beats. Him, my man Spaz and Rock, they got a long relationship. So Rock told Spaz he needed him for this Allow Chinese Food project. So Spaz came through, and he had the Say Grace beat, and I was like, I knew that was it as soon as I heard it. So I went home with that. I went home with it, and I wrote the hook first. And once I had the hook, it was over. Like, Say Grace is one of my favorite records. It's definitely dedicated to all my little ox in the struggle. But like I said, it's a hooky record. I came up with the hook first, and then I constructed the bars around the hook. That shit came out, mwah. Say Grace. Yeah, Watch Me Do It. That's a joint that my aunt, vice versa, out of Rochester, he sent me. Yo, this kid is a crazy producer. He the type of dude that sit up in the basement for like all day, sit up in the crib, and he might make 5 or 10 tracks a day. Like, his catalog is crazy. I've been knowing vice versa, for a long time, since the 90s or whatever. So he sent me this Mayfield track, with a Mayfield sample on it, and it was real dope. So I had wrote the first verse to it, and I was trying to get the hook. So, we hollered at my man Arsonist from the Heatmakers, and said, because I felt like it needed a singer on there, it needed some soul because of that Mayfield, and the way I flipped it, it was kind of, the lyrics that I put on there was a little different than, a lot of the lyrics that you heard on a lot of different, Mayfield tracks, because a lot of people that sample Mayfield. So when I did the first verse, and I was like, man, I really need a singer on here. So I hollered at Arsonist from the Heatmakers. Shout out to the Heatmakers. That's my mans. And then they said they had this perfect girl in mind named Queen Ella. So I guess about a week later, I came in the studio. She was there. So they pulled the track up, and we started working on the track, and she started coming with a melody, and some words start coming out. I started putting together some words, then she started putting together some words, and then she went in there and she knocked that joint out. Very professional, I must say. Queen Ella, she's gonna be a threat. Y'all gonna have to look out for her, because she's gonna be somebody. She's definitely dope. Songwriting and performing, she's professional in that booth. So much respect to Queen Ella. Thanks for making the project. Haron Dawn, that's actually the first joint me and Rocky ever did together. Haron Dawn is like actually 7 years old probably, but it was like really before its time. Haron Dawn is a lot of real true to life stuff that happened that's talked about in that song. When I first met Rocky, he was like not really fucking with niggas at that time, to be honest. So I had to. I put this. He heard me spit, and he was like, he played it cool. He played it cool at first, but then he hit me and slid me some beats. And Haron Dawn, 1973. That was one of the beats. So back then, 7 years ago, the paper wasn't like it was now. Of course, you know what I'm saying. So the money wasn't like it was. So we was going to these rinky-dink studios trying to perform the record. And it wasn't sounding right because, these dudes and they crazy studios. But we was doing what we had to do at the time, with the little funding that we had. So, once we got ourselves together and we got this Halal Chinese food project off the ground, it's like, let's bring that joint back. So we re-recorded it. It's crazy. It sound crazy. It's still as dope today as it was the day it was recorded. It's a real gangster song. It's real G'd up. Alhamdulillah. Crime Scene Tape, that was a Heatmaker's joint, man, that Arsonist did. That was crazy. We walked in the studio and he was putting that joint together, and I was sitting there like, how I'm gonna get this joint? You know what I'm saying? Like, it was crazy. So, Rocky, him and Rock worked it out, man, and I was able to get my hands on it. So once I got my hands on it, the Heatmakers, they responsible for that New York sound, in the early 2000s, the whole Dipset movement, Cameron, Joel Santana, Jim Jones, they did a lot of those records. So this record, that Crime Scene Tape, it had that feel. So I really was trying to bring the old New York back. I was thinking about the old New York. I was seeing all the changes in New York, how they gentrifying the old neighborhoods, how Brooklyn's not the same, white ladies walking poodles at 2 in the morning, you know what I'm saying, in Bed-Stuy. So I was thinking about the old New York when I made that joint, because it just, the beat that R had made, it was just so that old New York. So I put some that whole energy into it, that whole hoodie, get robbed on the train energy. So that's that Crime Scene Tape,
Talk about
Screwface Prayer. That's another Heatmaker's joint that Arsonist did. It's a conceptual record, All had this real up tempo, Jamaican joint that he had for me. And he was like, he felt like that my voice would sound good on it. It was up tempo, for the project. So he threw me the joint, and I'm Muslim, so we had to. In the record is like Jazz of My Light. So we had to be creative and figure out how to freak that joint. So we turned it into a conceptual record and told a story on it. It came out real dope, real dope. You know what I'm saying? Shout out to Arsonist for challenging me with that. The Argument Interlude was an interlude that my man Rocky put together. The Argument Interlude is like, because I've been in the game for a long time, since the early 90s. So the Argument Interlude was kind of like, because it's not actually a song, it's an interlude. So it was like an argument between my new self and my old self, lyrically talking about how it used to be, how I am now, and how I really can't go back to the old me, really. So it was like an argument between myself, really, So we called it the argument interlude. Plus, me and Rock was in the studio arguing about what we should do with that joint. You know what I'm saying? So between those two, we named it the argument interlude, and it came out real dope. We ended up shooting the video in front of Biggie crib, and you know, it's all she wrote. It's history, man.
Alright, good.
Straight Path. Straight Path is a joint that my man Vice Versa from Rochester, that's another one of those joints he had cooked up in the dungeon, and he sent it to me. So I had it for about a year, and I wasn't really doing nothing with it because I didn't know what I wanted to do with it yet. I just knew that it was dope. So me and Free, we hooked up in Philly one day. I ran out to Philly to rock with Free, you know what I'm saying? We running around the town. So I let him hear that beat. He was like, yeah, that's the one. So we went to the stew, and you know, I think me and him were both going through some things in our life at that time where we were really reaching out to Allah at that time, like trying to figure out I don't know. I only speak for myself, just trying to figure out how to get on that straight path, really. So once we came up with the hook, it was all she wrote after that, and that joint ended up becoming the straight path, you know, a real spiritually motivated record, and that joint is picking up all over the world, all overseas. It's definitely dedicated to the Muslims, and if you're a Muslim and you don't got that straight path record with Ox featuring Philly Freeway, you really sleeping, you know what I'm saying?